head to head on a variety of topics. We have one Gen-Zer, me, Chris, one Millennial, Noey, and as she calls it, one BBB, baby boomer from Brooklyn, Chaya, aka my mother. And today, we're starting off a series of videos that are going to be specifically tailored to Black history, Black culture, mainly because it's Black History Month. And today, we're going to be debating whether or not integration was beneficial or detrimental to people of color. So who wants to start? Where are we going to go with this?
I guess that Age Before Beauty is out today.
I mean, I was the one doing the intro, so I figured,
Man, throw it to myself.
Pass it on,
Hot potato.
Potato. There we go.
And was integration a negative or a positive? Me personally, I think it was a positive. I think it was necessary. Without it, I don't really think too many things work. I don't think you can really be, I guess, like in some kind of like cultural solitude or whatever, and truly progress the way that I think you can as a collective environment or a collective community, I should say. Not to mention, without integration, I feel like you just have this long-lasting kind of like internal racism that's just going to exist anyway without people actually integrating with other cultures, getting to know other cultures. I think you just end up creating some type of, I guess, a business relationship. I don't even want to call it something civil. It's just business. Like, hey, we do this together. We go our separate ways. That's it. So if there is no integration, I think a lot of what we have today is not accomplished. Now, as I say that, I think about the flip side of that, and I think about all of the different inventors and people who were Black. And without integration, what happens to those other cultures? And what happens to the Black culture? Do we actually progress because of, the fruits of our labor? Do we, it's interesting. But personally, I think it's a positive.
Okay.
So essentially, you think it was almost a requirement for, or no, not necessarily a requirement, but Black people integrating kind of put us in a different socioeconomic status.
Yeah. So without integration, then what exactly do you have? And what I mean is, seeing as how, just thinking about it from the beginning in America, so Black people were brought here technically. You know what I'm saying? It's not like, it's not white people's land either, but it wasn't ours, but they brought us here with them. So without that integration, do they just allow us to go free and, hey, go figure it out on your own, and we'll figure it out on our own and stuff like that? Or, what I'm saying? Like, how exactly do we start off? If we're just going to say, hey, all right, we brought you here, don't bother us, figure it out yourselves, then, I mean, I just don't see how that works in regards to sustaining like a true community and society and develop and grow together. I just can't see how that's effective for the long run. You just have a bunch of groups of people that just don't necessarily interact or get along, which to me leads to war of some sort. Like at some point, you're just going to be in war, fighting for land and domination and who's the superior race and all this other stuff. So to me, the integration is necessary because that's actually how you get to know people, their cultures, their societies, their communities, how they differ. It's a requirement of growth. And then there's different, just even from the beginning, just thinking of how things started, right? There's just a completely different way of thinking. Like, we were brought here. So it's like, they're going to feel like they were better, and you're going to feel like we were brought, but we still made it out. So we're better. I just can't see how it works personally.
Okay. What you got? What you got over there, Gusto?
You bring up a good point, honestly. So it kind of made me think about something in terms of I think integration was detrimental for a lot of reasons, but I feel like at the same time it was necessary for us to live the way that we live now. Okay, so had we not integrated with white America, essentially, we would still be within America, you know what I'm saying? Just not integrated. So we would still be living in white America, just not integrated with white America. So
So
I
if
feel
there's
like we
no
wouldn't.
integration, is there slavery?
Well, I mean, this was after slavery, right? Post-slavery, right?
Mhm.
No? Yeah, this
It's
is
post
post-slavery.
post the
Oh, okay. My bad. I was kind of thinking from like a
Are you thinking
beginning
from
of,
like from
yeah,
the
like the beginning of time
Yeah,
where
Oh,
we
no,
would
yeah,
never
nah.
integrate. Okay, I got you.
Yeah.
this is post
But yeah,
Reconstruction.
yeah, there we go.
Got it.
Because prior to integration, we were still thriving with Black Wall Street and, you know what I'm saying, having things like the Green Book and whatnot, and kind of supporting the businesses that we created ourselves. And the dollar stayed within the Black community. It didn't travel outside of that local influence. So when it comes to that aspect of it, I think integration kind of, whitewashed that a little bit, but I think it was still necessary, to your point, to kind of give us a little cushion because we were still living in white America. It's not like, there was uncharted territory that we haven't discovered yet or something, but it was society in America, period, was still ruled by or governed by even, the other race. So we would still be on somebody else's land, you know what I'm saying, abiding by somebody else's rules and being subject to what, was going on at the time. So I guess to make a stance, I think to say integration was, I don't think it was necessary, but I think it became a lot more detrimental to the Black culture. But I think it was necessary for us to be where we are socioeconomically.
So to touch on one of the things you said in regards to burning down Black Wall Street in Tulsa. So this is kind of the point that I was making. White folks are doing their thing. Minorities, Black folks were doing our thing. Then they burn it down. This is the battle for supremacy that I'm kind of talking about. Like, I feel like you stay in that if you never integrate. Because if it's a matter of like, because then it'll end up being some type of racism on both sides, where it's like, yeah, we hate them, they hate us. We're battling this thing out to see who's left, at the end. Because you'll build it back, they might burn it down again, or you go burn whatever white Wall Street exists, or just other stuff in America, whatever it is. And then you just have this back and forth until the end of time. And then there's nothing really gets accomplished. And I think that's one of the first things that, them burning that down, I think it's just like, yeah, look, yeah, now we're not going with this. We're not letting you catch up. We're not letting you build. We're not letting you do any of that. Like, we will not be outdone. But if you're not integrated and you're like, it's cool, we'll just build it right back. And then now you're forced to build back and protect even, with higher stakes, what it is that you have. So right then and there, you've created a warlike mentality.
True. Well, I'm going to take a page from some of our great Black historians that some of them we talk about, or some kids know about them in schools and some kids don't. But I'm going to start with the Honorable Jamaican Don Dada, Marcus Garvey, and how he was straight Pan-African nationalist. He was just like separate, but equal. And when we talk about integration, that we did was not because of the fact that we had separate but equal. Like, we literally had no support from the government. When I think of integration and segregation, had we been at a place to say, okay, well, this is what we'll do. as a Black woman or as a Black man and Black families, we are going to now separate from the other institutions in this country, have, because like Jewish, they have their own community, Chinese, they have their own community, Korean, they have their own community, and they have their own communities in almost every state. But they're able to circulate those dollars within their community and not really have to depend on government subsidies. Now, if we were able to say everything that we invented is going to be ours, we're going to keep everything we invented, and that's how we are going to do export import within our communities. That ain't what happened. When we was segregated, we was just like, we were able to create our own banks and hospitals and all that good stuff, and even cars. That's another Black history moment that we have not touched before Henry Ford. But anyway, we had our own infrastructure, but because of the fact that we weren't able to capitalize on a broader scale and do exports with other communities and states or even countries, that's why we were limited, because where we getting ammunition from? You know what I'm saying? Where we making guns from? We could make our own weapons, but we would need, a Columbia size, Pablo Escobar import, to do business. You know what I'm saying? But because of the fact that we didn't have that, then the amount of race riots and race wars within this country, stemming back from 1526 in this country, is asinine. The only ones that we now know of, and we just learned about Tulsa last year, even though obviously some of us knew about it for a long time, but we had race riots in this particular country, all because people did not like the fact that we were making it without them. That's all it boiled down to, is jealousy. I don't want to see those niggers with nothing. I don't want to see those these jigaboons, kaboons, what else they say in Django? I don't remember, but but they didn't like the fact that we were doctors and lawyers and movie theater owners. We had so much, and we did it on our own, but yet they didn't like that. And then they came in and was just like, oh, you tried to rape one of our women? That boy didn't try to rape that woman in that hotel. And she never once pressed charges, but they needed a reason. And that's how they had the police behind them and the federal government behind them. So if we don't have backing like that, and we don't have our own police and our own federal government, then it's not going to work. But Malcolm X said the same thing. He was just like, nope, we don't need to integrate. We don't need to integrate. Martin Luther King was an integrationist until he was just like, he regrets trying to integrate his people. He said, and I quote, "I fear I'm integrating my people into a burning house." And that was one of the most nonviolent, peaceful men that they try to quote now. But he was
I can understand why he would say that.
Huh?
Especially in those times, I can see why he would say that. Because, that's literally the definition of being on the front lines of integration, or just being on the front lines in general. And you're literally like being met with like warlike force. But with everything that you're saying, well, let me ask this question. If we're talking about integration, are the laws changing, or do the laws stay the same? Like, do you integrate peacefully and equally?
It would have to be changed. It would have to be changed. Because remember, speaking of Martin Luther King, when we were riding the buses in Alabama, they was just like, nah, nigger, get to the back of the bus. but yet we was paying the same fare. You know what I'm saying? There was nothing different with our money and their money, but because of the fact that we were Black, we couldn't even sit, in the front. And then if there was too many white people, we had to give up our back seats. So we're integrated now on a bus, but we're not integrated as far as status. So we can be like, oh, I don't feel like going to the back seat. I'm gonna just sit up here and just, my feet hurt, I'm tired. And it wasn't until they realized, oh wait, we don't got the niggers' money. Okay, now you can sit wherever you want, nigger. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I just don't think that that's a sustainable way of living. I feel like you will be living in fear. Probably, I mean, regardless with segregation, you were still living in fear, but yeah, it's hard to really and truly think about it.
Because
or to
we're
really
living in fear right now, no.
Yeah, because you would live in fear either way. But I think one way is like clear and like present. This leads to warlike behavior. And I know people are going to be like, well, we're kind of at that point now, but I'm talking about like if we're all living here, let's say you have Black people here, white people here, Blacks and minorities over here, white people and whoever they want with them over here. And you have your own separate communities, for every white supermarket, there's a Black supermarket. For every white car wash, there's a Black car wash. For every white restaurant, there's a Black restaurant. For every white park, there's a Black park. How long does that last? Peacefully.
Well, if it's equal as far as the substance, and like we have Black supermarkets and we have white supermarkets now, and the Black supermarkets in the Black neighborhoods.
What, C-Town?
I ain't want to name no names, but those supermarkets, the quality of goods and produce is not as good as when you go to the wall bounds in the white neighborhood. You know what I'm saying?
I think there's a difference in terms of what's being protected dependent on if you integrated or not. Like had we not integrated, there would have been more of a cultural protection. You know what I'm saying? But being that, or if we didn't integrate, then we lose that economic and I don't know how to explain it, but more so like we lose access to certain things that we probably wouldn't have had otherwise.
I think I agree with that, because I think, one, how do you govern a separate society as one in the same country? And two, if you have a white neighborhood and a Black neighborhood, the same way you would look in a Black neighborhood, just as an example now, and you would say there's a gun store in every corner, there's a liquor store in every corner, there's, all this negative stuff, just projects and this and that. Kind of like just using Boys in Hood as a reference. If you have white people who are shipping in products and, they own boats and, shipping containers, and they can transport and do whatever they do, I feel like you end up in a bidding war of some sort, because you're shipping and you're trying to provide stock, if you will, to one nation that's divided. So how do you actually do that effectively? Oh, you gave it to them for this price, and I just feel like it creates issues all around. There's bidding wars. Bidding wars are always going to be good for whoever, owns the ships and the products and all that other stuff that are actually coming in, but it's not necessarily effective, because I think it creates that little idea of like, yo, they driving up the price. You got to get them out of here. And then it's just like, yo, we got to go take them out, burn it down, do something. And then maybe I'm just being negative, and I'm being positively negative, if that's even, that's the complete oxymoron. But it's like, I can see so much good that comes from it as it being necessary. And then at the same time, it's just like, damn, like if you integrate, you got to deal with Jim Crow, racism, and all the other stuff. You have to go through that at some point on both sides to some degree, like that little initial period of hatred or whatever. If you don't integrate, you kind of skip all of that and you can live peacefully amongst yourselves, but live in complete fear of everybody else, of what might happen or what is more than likely to happen, if that makes sense.
No, it makes sense. But when I think of what you say, I actually go to how the drug game has gone, and how, and I may watch too many movies or TV by saying this. Shut your mouth. Anyway, because of the fact that you have all of these different groups that are selling drugs, right? And the corners or the territories have already been set by that group of leaders. And if anybody is infringing or scamming or scheming on someone else's territory, they take them out because you're now a threat to the rest of, you know what I'm saying? So I don't think that we would have to totally like be reclusive and not intermingle with anybody. But when it comes to how we live, where we work, where we eat, you know what I'm saying, where we sleep, that's synonymous to us, because as soon as they integrated back then, literally the next day or the same day, it was just like the black man stopped going to the black stores because they was just like, the white man's ice is colder. You know what I'm saying? Because you think that it's something different from what you have. But when you have just the same or even better as the quote unquote white man, you ain't going to be like, I'm going to go to the white man's store because his ice is colder. You're going to eat at and get ice at your own store. If it's of the same equal value, even the ports would be allocated, for, you know what I'm saying?
But so even that's the hard part. Like, that's kind of what I'm thinking about is it equal? Like, if you don't integrate, is it equal? Like, do the law, like, I mean, I know we're saying that the laws would change. I'm trying to think of it in my head as I speak on it, just like what exactly changes. You know what I'm saying? Like, what is in place that guarantees, separate but equal? You know what I'm saying? What is it that you can trust up to that point? Let's say, I don't know, we want to start this in what year? Like, let's pick a year and then go from there. Like, what year would we say we'd want to integrate?
2022.
Oh, well, if we integrate now, then, I mean, we're integrated already, but I mean, or excuse me, what years would, let's say we don't integrate and we go set our separate ways. You want to start that from 2022?
I think we would need a couple years to get.
Yeah, but I think we're in a good position to actually do something like that. I mean, I don't think it wouldn't be as hard to, I guess, be separate but in equal now as it would be back in the day, because we're far more advanced. I think, the black dollar is growing exponentially every day. I mean, we're responsible for a large.
Did you see that we were the top?
Oh, so we're at the top. Okay.
It was a article that came out about 2 days ago. The top spenders.
Yeah, so the money's flowing. Just it's more than likely not flowing within our own community.
But not in our communities.
Now, separating might help that. But if we separate, do you trust the other side to allow you to grow and develop the way that you need to without taking it from you or trying to take it from you?
I think that plays more into a mental thing, though, because I feel like Black people mostly, and this is from years and years ago, I think that it's been ingrained in us to kind of perceive white as superior, depending on, or in any context, really. You know what I'm saying? As you said, like the ice is colder in the white man's store, right? So I think that we have that perception kind of ingrained in us to think that the quality of life is better when it's white.
And that all goes down to number one, being media.
Yeah.
Because if we didn't see, or if even back then, before there was motion picture or television, you had, the newspapers, the press, and they would print some of the most egregious things when it came to us, to make us seem as if we were savages and we were dangerous.
Yeah.
When the fact of the matter is that historically it's been proven that they have been the most savage within this country and across the globe. You know what I'm saying? But they made it to where everything you see is, this is negative, this is negative, this is dangerous, this is sexually
They even made Jesus white, man.
That's true.
like you literally, your modus operandi was, we are going to create a narrative. We are going to create race. Because before that dude, I don't even remember his name, I think Francis something, who created race, it wasn't even about white or black. Where that dude, I forgot his name, started that old white black thing. Because before people were judged based on their religious ideology.
You had it right. Ideologies.
Ideology, yeah. I had a brain freeze. But before then, it didn't exist. You don't see people talking about that, even in the Bible. And they even did, that's another story. I'm not even gonna go there because people might get mad at me. But even with that, you literally had the Ammonites, the Jebusites, the Jews, the Gentiles. It was always about religious connections. It was, or where you were from. It was never about skin color. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
But they made it to this race thing. And from there, it was a full, like niggas, they did some thinking. And the scholars and the leaders thereafter, they just expanded on the stupidness that started. And how is it that an entire globe feels that we are lazy, are shiftless, sex crazed, thieving, no good, but we can dance, we can sing, and we can play some sports, and we could clean your house and till your field. Australia got to be the farthest country and continent that there is on that side. And they, even them.
So that's programming and conditioning at its finest, though. Because if you bring people here from somewhere else that, let's just say, people are unaware of, then you control the narrative. And then once you control the narrative in the beginning, it's hard. You control the narrative for 450 years. And then people are trying to change that narrative in 100 years. It's going to be hard to do. They've seen the same thing for so long, it's hard to turn it around. Now, people once they come in contact with you, like I've had people say, yo, you different. Different how? Oh, you thought I was going to be some crazy nigga because I was black. You didn't think I would just be a regular person. But that's how that is in today's day and age, that's how people think, or even like how you can fathom to even say a sentence like that to somebody like, yo, you're so different from all the other black people that I know. Okay. Are you actually like, you're black? Like, are you? Wow. Like, those folks, that's my nigger friend.
What? Racist? I have a black friend. His name is Noel.
You know what I'm saying?
Say something, Noel. Say something.
So I think.
And that also goes to the conditioning in the school system. When you have a school system that is literally teaching you their methods of education, which is totally the antithesis of how we would teach our own children. You have children who hate themselves. And then you have a literal campaign what is it? Was it Florida or I know Tennessee did it already. Florida was just like, no, you can't teach anything about Black history except
I think that
for
was
Martin Luther
DeSantis.
King. Texas too, because I
No, I'm
know
saying DeSantis in Florida.
Yeah, Florida did something recently. It made it illegal. So you don't even want kids to learn the truth about
Well, because
you.
they wanted to they said there was an issue with they wanted kids to learn without having white guilt or something like that, or whatever it is. Or
Do you
people.
see? And then, but the media now gets behind it, and they get these pundits on the news shows, and they say, yeah, because studies have shown that children, they get upset and they're sad, and it's because they feel like. What about the kids that lived it? How is it that they don't matter?
I agree.
You literally have a curriculum that is like white, Martin Luther King, white.
But there lies the problem in integration, right? The problem in integration is white wasn't integrating with Black, right? Black was more so seen as integrating with white. So that in itself becomes a complete process of assimilation. So
but then when
say,
white integrates with Black, it's called gentrification.
Yeah, essentially, right? So white inherently becomes the standard for which you're supposed to act, right? And anything less than that is considered quote unquote niggerish. You know what I'm saying? So being quote unquote niggerish is not inherently bad, because nothing is inherently good or bad. It's just dependent on the label that you put on it. But we're forced to look at ourselves like that because we're subconsciously comparing ourselves to what the standard is. And the standard at this point is white, right? So unless you're assimilating to white culture, you're not necessarily, you know what I'm saying, succeeding or being in power or having, you know what I'm saying, a certain status. So once integration came, or once we started to integrate, then we started to change the perception of ourselves.
No, but then when we started integrating, then we also felt that was when we were successful. If we had a house in a Black neighborhood, we owned a home in a Black neighborhood, and we, shopped at our Black, local bodegas or Spanish, but within the people of color community, that wasn't a label of success for most people. It's not until you go into like the Beverly Hills or the Bel Air, and you know what I'm saying, the Scarsdale.
You're talking about in New York?
Yeah.
Yeah, the New Rochelle, Scarsdale.
Yeah, that's when it's
Long
labeled.
Island.
Oh, I made it. You having a home, driving a nice car, and shopping within your local town, and that's not considered making it. When you think of yourself as handsome or pretty, it wasn't. The standard was Barbie and Ken back then, and the blonde hair, blue eyed, white woman, Marilyn Monroe-ish, type. That was the standard of beauty. And the body shape standard was
no
hips, no hips, no.
That real, was their public standard, but behind closed doors, all these white dudes are out here getting with these Black girls the same way the slave owners were with the, were with the slaves and all this other stuff. You know what time it is, but I think you
start.
You know what I'm saying? I think it's double-sided. It's like a double-edged sword. Like if you integrate, or as Chris was saying, there lies the problem with integration, all the things that come with it. There's a power structure when Black people are integrating with white people, if you want to put it that way. So because of that power, that so-called power structure, there's not much that you can do in that moment unless you're given the opportunity to fairly go out and get it. So if they're like, no, you can integrate with us, things are going to stay the same. We're just going to allow you to be a part of the community, but you just can't do all of these things. Now, it's not truly integration. It's like control. It's like a controlled experiment.
Mhm.
But I think when you were talking about not feeling like you're successful, like you made or you've accomplished anything until you make it into the white neighborhoods or whatever the case may be, that idea, I think, precedes the integration, because that's going to go back to the, oh, you're 3/5 of a human and you're this and you're that. So again, 450 years worth of programming and conditioning, even writing it into your constitution, people believe that's the law. You ain't a whole human. You ain't even a whole human being. How can you ever be better than me? Or how can you even be me at the bare minimum? So I don't necessarily think that ideology that Black people may have carried around back then was their own fault. I think it's, you look at yourself as, I'm great, we're this, we have nice cars just within our own community, and it's this and it's whatever. It's the society that's telling you that it's not enough, because they're going to keep telling you you're only 3/5 of a human, you're not even a full person, you're not this. We still control all of this stuff, we still have this, we still have that. We tell you what to do, we offer it to you. Even within integration, you will never be as good as we are. So I think that power, unless you give Black people a fair shot, which I look at, in my personal opinion, they don't want to do that, because with a 450-year head start, we've already caught up. So to look at it and say, hey, let's go 50-50 on this thing and do it together. We've already seen white people over the years complaining, every poll and census you see, oh, Black folks are catching up, the minorities are catching up, the population, white folks will at some point be the minority in the population, because Black folks
2042.
And they
when they
like,
suspect.
and in my head it's like, oh, if Black people really wanted to do stuff to you, we would have did it already. Like, if we were out to get you, we would have done that already. You know what I'm saying? So, like, think about it. You went and burned, like, you told us to go figure it out on our own. We went, figured it out, built our own community, built up our own banks, and did all that stuff for ourselves, our own communities, did it for ourselves, and then you burnt it down. I don't even want to say to spite us, but I believe, again, you burnt it down out of fear of what could come from that. Because if they can do it with nothing and figure that out, then nah, we can't have that. There can never be a challenger. It's almost like that Avenger way of thinking, where Nicholas Fury is with Captain America, and he's like, yo, we're gonna put these 3 ships in the sky, and before anybody even does anything, we're just gonna shut it down. And Captain America is just like, so you want to control the world by holding a gun to its head? And that's exactly what they want to do.
Stay tuned for scenes from the next episode of Up for Debate.
A bill for the transgender, a bill for the Asian hate, like a bill for the people separated at the border.
Talking about reparations.
Dude.
Black folks was like, reparations? It's like, you starting over here with that? Like, you need to come this way.
Fab Maven, the official brand of the Melanin movement, a bold and unapologetic brand for the culture that uplifts and empowers, a brand that says, we've got something to say. Go to fabmaven.com and get your online shop on.